For the last 3 months, as of recording this video, I've only been able to work for about 2 hours a day. For as long as I can remember, I've woken up to random vertigo attacks in the middle of the night. And don't worry, I have had it checked. Usually I bounce back in less than 48 hours, but not this time. Thankfully, and this is the part we're going to talk about, my 7-figure business kept running smoothly. Because when you strip away that guru playbook of waking up at 4 a.m., hustling and posting until your brain melts, you realize something that most people never do. A real freedom business is designed to support you, especially when you can't hustle. So in this video, I want to share the 6 principles that enable a 7-figure business to run and grow on less than 20 hours a week from me over the last few years. And I'm sharing this because I know a lot of people are running their business the same way that I used to, where you're holding everything together through your sheer willpower and you're just hoping nothing takes you out. If that's you, this episode of the Freedom Business Diaries is for you. This is the series where I pull back the curtain on the parts of entrepreneurship that nobody warns you about. Not the highlight reel, but the real decisions, the breakdowns, the rebuilds, and the systems that actually keep a business alive and running. When you can only work about 2 hours a day, you've got to get brutally honest about what actually matters and what wasn't really moving the needle in the first place. Which brings us to principle number 1, focus on the vital few. Something I saw a while back that really stuck with me is that billionaire John Paul DeJoria doesn't use email. Someone asked him why. And he said, focus on the vital few, ignore the trivial many. If I had email, there would be a lot of trivial things that I would be answering. Which, let's be honest, is a privileged position that you can take when you are a billionaire. But the philosophy behind it does apply at every level. You've got to be willing to let things go. I've tried to do this for most of my business, and I've talked about different aspects of it before. For example, I didn't have any editing on my videos for years, and having this foundation was the reason why I was able to keep going when I was able to work only 2 hours a day. In fact, having less time forced me to get even more focused on the true vital few. For example, I stopped giving my newsletters a third final read before I send them out. I didn't check my captions or publish videos before they went out, and I trusted my team even more. The vital few that I really honed in on, and this is true for most people in the coaching and course creator space, is I focused on creating my daily piece of content. I focused on delivering to my clients, and that was for the most part it. But if you're in a place of thinking, I have to do everything, then I think you're gonna find this reframe really helpful. Not every task is equally important. And to be clear, I love to work. It's a huge part of my Asian upbringing, and I've always tied my identity to my work ethic in large part. But even with all that, before I do anything, I always ask myself, do I really need to be working on this? And I've seen this principle also change the lives of my clients as well. One of my clients was in the first year of building her own clinic. And at that time, she only had one top priority. We were approaching November and December, and she had a big cash requirement coming up so that she could pay her team and herself. She was trying to do 1,000 different things, and she was panicking because it didn't look like she was gonna hit those goals. So here's what we did. First, we identified the one revenue strategy that would help her hit her cash requirement. This also eliminated over 90% of all the to-dos that she thought she had to do. Number 2, since she's in a fairly seasonal business, we also mapped out an offer that she could put out in December. This way, those initial December sales also roll into more back-end sales that'll boost her revenue the next year. Then finally, we also mapped out a few quick tactics that she could use to start selling a personal coaching offer that she'd been wanting to put out to support parents of the children whom she helped. And it was a few quick things that she could start doing right away. The point is this is not just a productivity tip. This is a principle that applies at every level of your business, from releasing the details that aren't as important, like if a caption has a typo, it's gonna be okay, all the way to the top of your business where you're defining what strategies do you use, what tactics do you execute on, and which ones do you choose not to do. And to give you a bit more behind the scenes, these days I do have an amazing team that helps me with all of my to-dos, but that's also been something that we've slowly built up over the years. And what that has allowed me to do is to focus on my vital few. For the past at least 5 years, that's been pretty much the same. I create one daily weekday newsletter. That's honestly my personal love, and what we use as the inspiration for a lot of our other content. Then I support my small handful of private coaching clients, and everything else is led by someone else on the team. I of course co-create like these videos. I'm definitely not hands-off with them, but even here, I'm not focusing on the editing or the things that aren't my strength. I'm again focused on my vital few, which is actually sharing the content and experience that I have to share with you. In this type of business, there really are only a few things that truly matter. Having at least one steady traffic source, having a strong sales or conversion system, even if that means you doing sales calls in the beginning, and having a strong delivery of your coaching package or course offer. And to get to 6, often even 7 figures, you just need to have one of each. If you focus on just that, everything else can be good enough. But when you hear this, it might also make you think, okay, but if I'm not doing more, how do I get to the point of consistency where I'm actually growing? To be honest, I've always fantasized about being the kind of person who can crank out like 4 videos a day. But honestly, I just don't think I have the energy to maintain that kind of quality at that output, at least not right now, and especially not over the last few months as I was recovering. Personally, I'm also more of a fan of quality over quantity. And when you can only do one piece of content a day, you have to figure out how to make it more potent to land. And that's where principle number 2 comes in. Potency beats quantity. I know it's probably really different from what you've been told, where it's all about that quantity. Volume is so key. And especially if you're in the beginning of building your business, there is some truth to that, because it's doing the quantity and getting in the reps that allows you to get to quality. You do have to practice to build the skill, but even then, that only gets you so far. People are bombarded with volume. They're not lacking for content to consume. So the only way to stand out is with quality. So especially if you're not trying to be an influencer and are trying to establish yourself as someone with interesting, high value information to share, you've got to focus on the quality to stand out. And I've seen the actual evidence time and time again over the past 10 years. I can be not feeling aligned and kind of trying to just get it done and put out 10 emails and not have them perform as well as one aligned email where I'm excited to create it, I'm focused, the content flows, and boom, 10x the number of sales. This actually is exactly what happened over the past few months. As you know, if you've been around this channel or in LZ land for any amount of time, I am a big fan of consistency, but I am also a fan of giving your body what it needs when you need it. That means over the past few months, I took a week off of my daily newsletter creation, which I haven't done in as long as I can remember, and I did it more than once because I just needed that recovery time. I could have brute forced it and forced myself to do it, or I have so much content that I could have repurposed it as well. But honestly, neither felt right. So I took the time off. I trusted the systems and my team to keep things going. And then when I was ready, when I was itching to write an email, I came back and wrote one. I didn't have a lot of creative energy, so I focused on potency. I sat down, I wrote an email about a client who had just crossed 95K at the time and ended up having a $100,000 month that month. It was good, it was high value, and because of that potency and focus, it got a private coaching client inquiry. People can sense when you're in flow and in that potency versus when you're just trying to crank stuff out for the sake of it. That being said, it has taken me many years to develop the self-trust to trust that I can do this. Because if you're like me by default, you either go between all or nothing mode. This was my personal struggle for years. And if you resonate, then you know what comes up. If I'm not in go, go, go mode and I'm not producing so much, what if I allow myself to fall off entirely? Thus, principle number 3, redefine consistency. Because yes, and please hear me, consistency does matter. Most people define consistency as volume, like show up every day or post more or email more. In the beginning, if that's the simplest benchmark that you can hold yourself to, use it. However, if you've got limitations on the amount of time you can work, or you've gone through your own health or life challenges, you know that consistency that causes you to burn out is not really consistency. It's self-sabotage. To me, consistency means something that you can actually maintain. If you have to write 10 emails and they're all really bad because you're uninspired and you feel so miserable thinking about how long it's going to take you to write them, that's burning you out. So let's redefine it. Instead of thinking of consistency as frequency, let's figure out what it looks like to be able to maintain something without burning out your nervous system. So instead with the output, you start with the input, your energy. This is why for the first many years of my business, the only thing I committed to was one daily weekday email, because I knew if I tried to do any more, I would probably burn out. Then, many years after that, I finally committed to doing one weekly YouTube video. And even then, here's the thing. I didn't commit to doing the whole YouTube thing, figuring it out, thumbnails, titles, hooks, editing, all of that. All I did for at least a year or two was commit to sitting down, recording something, often a live stream, just me talking, no scripting, nothing fancy, and then uploading it onto my YouTube channel. And here's why I do it this way. One of my newsletter subscribers once asked me, how do you decide when to give up on a strategy? And my answer, which I hadn't verbalized until that question, is I realized never. And the reason I think that way is because you never know when something is going to work. I've had some strategies take off right away and some take years before they bear fruit. The only thing you can and want to control is not cutting yourself off before the thing that you're doing has time to work. So my question is not ever, how do I get out there and get the fastest results? Or how do I create the most volume? The way I think about it is, how can I set something up so that once I start it, I can maintain it forever? This way, I'm giving myself the space to grow, like with this YouTube channel. If you look back over a lot of my older videos, you will see the progression, but that's the key word. Every year, I added something onto the channel. If I had tried to start with all of the things that we do for each video right now, back then, I will tell you, I would have given up probably after one video or never even started because it would have felt so overwhelming. But because I was consistent in giving myself the right starting point, starting at the easiest way for me, and also doing it in a way that allowed me to be able to maintain the growth and consistency without burning out, we've been able to have a pretty cool progression and we'll probably continue to do so. So here's what it boils down to. If you've been feeling guilty about not doing more, not creating like the 4 posts a day, there is a time and place for that, especially if you can sustain it, even if it's for a short targeted sprint. But ultimately, for most people, they end up creating trash and hating their life. Why not try something different? Why not do something that actually works for you? That brings me to principle number 4. Protect your highest value hours. This is something that I had heard before, but when I was forced to work just 2 hours a day, I remembered something that one of my colleagues who had sold his software company for 7 to 8 figures told me once. You only get about 4 hours, if you're lucky, of true deep work a day. The first time I heard that, I was a young, naive entrepreneur in my 20s and had a lot of young person energy. And honestly, I didn't know what I was talking about. So I dismissed it at the time because, okay, if you're only working 4 hours a day, you're just being lazy. Now, many years later, slightly wiser, I have realized the truth of it. I have seen behind the scenes of so many businesses, and sadly, most people spend their highest value time on mental junk, like checking their inbox, responding to emails, admin, taking meetings where not much is getting done, and basically responding to everyone else's needs and putting out fires. And then they wonder why their business isn't growing, even though they're working so much. I've heard my friends who are new parents say the same thing, where once you have a child, you have to go take care of your child. You only have so many hours to work, and you magically find yourself getting way more efficient because you have to be. For me, because of my recovery, it was a similar situation. When you are limited, you don't have the luxury of wasting time. And in many ways, that's a gift because you can only work those few hours. You've got to use them on the things that matter. And that's because earlier in the day, you can focus on yourself before the demands of the day and other people's demands weigh in on you. But I know it's not always feasible. When I was working my job and starting my first business on the side, the only time I had was late in the evening after I came home from a long day of work. So you use what you have to do. But the point is, whatever time that is, you gotta protect it like it is gold. If you are best in the morning, don't spend it on tasks that are gonna drain you. I'm not perfect with this, but as a general rule of thumb, I do not check my email first thing in the morning. And that's because the moment I go into my inbox, I'm pulled into all of the needs and questions of other people. My mornings, and I've always done this to some degree, but these last few months, I've had to do it even more intentionally, is first I wake up slowly, I take my dog out, I drink my latte that my lovely husband makes for me, and then I let myself wake up, get excited for the day, let my creativity flow in, and then I sit down and I write. Again, I'm not perfect with this, but as I'm writing, I try not to pull up all my social media tabs or check what's going on Netflix, or, I mean, you know how it goes. But I get it done, and if I need to create something else, I do. Afterwards, I check in on my private clients and I have the conversations I need to support them. And then anything important that needs to get handled that day, I'll handle. And if I have extra time, I'll do a few other things. Everything else can wait until tomorrow. It's different from what I think so many of us are taught, myself included, where you're just taught you just gotta work as much as you can. I did that for my first 3 years in business. I think I had to do it back then, but knowing what I know now, I'm not convinced that you do. I thought I did back then. Let's just put it that way. So be it. I also wouldn't have had the wisdom to hear anyone telling me you can work less. But either way, long term, it's simply not sustainable. I really don't think we're designed to work nonstop. We're designed to work hard, do great in flow, high value aligned work, and then also to go out there and live our lives. But the thing is, that kind of business and life relationship doesn't happen by accident. You have to be hugely intentional and disciplined about it in this way. So as you can probably see, everything we're talking about in this video is really like human. It's nothing like the kind of almost perfect machine robot standards so many of us, myself included, are taught. And I think the reason for this is because deep down, most of us have been trained to fear, if I'm not perfect, everything's gonna fall apart. I'm not gonna be good enough, I'm not gonna be worthy of getting what I want, and so I've gotta try and be perfect. And it's so interesting the way our minds trick us into holding on to these fears. For years, I told myself, you know what, I'm just a perfectionist. I am okay at letting some things that don't matter go, like what? But really, I'm channeling my perfectionism into high standards so that I'm able to create the best quality content and products that I possibly can. But now, I think very differently. And if I could go back in time and coach myself back then, I would tell myself, I would just shake myself and tell that version of me, stop letting perfectionism literally sabotage your life. Thus, principle number 5, lower your acceptable quality threshold. Now, to be clear, I am not saying to just put out unacceptable, really low quality anything. You will never hear that from me. But I think there's a big difference between excellence and perfectionism. And most of us, especially if you are watching this video and you relate to me and my channel, you are already drawn to doing your highest quality work and creating the highest quality product. So really, you don't have to worry about that. What's actually going on is that extra little layer between excellence and perfectionism is what we use to hold ourselves back. Let me give you some examples. For years, I was so strict with how things had to look in my emails, on my social media, and my captions. But the truth is, we're all human and we all make mistakes from time to time. These days, if an email is copied slightly wrong or is missing a piece of formatting or has an extra line space, so be it. If my caption has a typo or is missing a line break, nothing is gonna break. Recently, we had to update the design on my blog slightly to make it a bit more search and AI optimized. In the past, I would have been there double checking every single new link to make sure it was working and checking the design and layout on all of my devices. But this time, I just did not have the energy. And you know what? That was a gift because I realized it doesn't really matter. Not only these days do I have a team that helps me do all of that, but honestly, if a link is broken, we'll find it at some point and get it resolved. So you've got to use that filter to pick the battles that actually matter and thus give yourself back a lot of time and energy and space to do other things and enjoy your life. especially if you're newer in business, and I'm seeing this a lot, you might be looking at all of the creators, myself included, who have had a lot more time to build up our team and our resources and thinking, okay, I need to edit my videos better. I need to make them perfect. I need to make my PDFs amazing and get it all up and looking amazing. You just want to do your best and present yourself in the way that you know you see yourself as on the inside. Let it go. There will come a time and place for that. And in fact, your acceptable threshold quality will increase as your business increases. What was acceptable for my business 5 years ago is not our minimum acceptable threshold now. And what our threshold is now probably won't be it in another 5 years from now. So you're gonna grow. Your definition of excellence is going to grow. If you focus on the vital few, everything else can be just good enough for where you are. Be excellent, not perfect. Because perfectionism, that will suck your life dry. It will steal your time, your happiness, your joy. Speaking from personal experience. And here's the final thing that I learned and confirmed when I could only work 2 hours a day. All the principles I've shared only work if your business is built like a system, not a list of to-dos. If everything in your business depends on you manually showing up every single day, it is inevitable that it will collapse the minute something in life happens, which is also inevitable because that's literally the definition of life. So the question I ask myself all the time, and I've talked about this for years, is how can I do something once and then make it work for me for forever? Thus, principle number 6, build assets that work for you for forever. Principles are nice. For them to work, you need to have the stuff, the foundation that actually allows them to work. Otherwise, all these principles are just nice sounding platitudes. A business is a system. This kind of business where you're selling some sort of expertise or service, coaching, consulting, courses, it really can be boiled down to 3 basic pillars. Traffic, which is how you grow, how people find you. Conversion, how you let them know what you've got to help and show them that you're the person to help them. And then delivery, delivering on what you're selling and promising. For example, for traffic, these days we have our SEO/AIO systems. We have our YouTube, we have our Instagram and TikTok and LinkedIn. And as I mentioned, we built one at a time over the years. And now I have the team and systems to support it, which allows me to focus on only ideating about one piece of content a day, and then working with my team to leverage and expand it into our other platforms. For conversion, you've got a few main options. You can use some sort of live sales process and eventually outsource it to a sales team if you want to. You can use a webinar or webinar funnel, and then there's also the sales pages, sales emails, and checkout forms and all of that. Or you can use some combination. For example, in the past, I've done webinar plus sales team. These days, I'm a big fan of webinar/webinar plus sales page. If you're on my email list, you know you have seen me do all of these things for years. And if you're not on my email list, you should definitely sign up because I send some awesome daily newsletters. You can sign up at luisazhou.com/newsletter. Side note, I have been told I write some of the best emails ever, so you're in for a treat. And the final pillar is, of course, delivery. Even if you're selling a one-on-one type of offer, there are still so many things you can systematize for the content that you share, how you share it, and how you support a client. Then as you leverage yourself into group programs and courses, you can of course systematize the delivery of the program or the course. You can train program coaches to help deliver and support your clients, and you can improve and systematize it over time. For example, for my flagship Employee to Entrepreneur program, I first created the first version 10 years ago. I just finished a massive updated iteration of, I think, version 10 or 11. And over the years, I've gone from personally supporting over 1,000 of my Employee to Entrepreneur clients to building out the program coach team to support them just as well. The point is this. When you're applying all the principles we've covered in this video, redefining consistency in a way that you can sustain, focusing on the vital few, and doing it in a way that allows it to compound, the work that you do adds up. So you never again have to start from zero, and instead everything builds. And that's why my business has kept running smoothly, even when I could barely work. Because that is the point of a business. You build it so that it can support you, not the other way around. That's a job. And if this episode has made you realize that you want a business that supports you through every season of your life as well, then the next video you need to watch is the one in this same series, right before. It's the 10 golden rules that grew my business to 10 million plus, doably. And it goes even deeper into the exact decisions that set the foundation for me to be able to work just 2 hours a day in this past few months, and do so not just in maintenance mode, but while the business continued to grow. If you want the full picture, the mindset and the mechanics, I'll see you in that video.